The grand hall of the Tyrellian embassy was glowing with soft blue lights, tall silver pillars rising into a ceiling, filled with starlight screens. It looked more like a palace than a place for political talks. In the center stood a long glass table, and at the head of it a human sat alone, calm, alert, watching everything. His name was Jake Holloway, a respected human ambassador known for his cool mind and strong will. He had been invited to Tyrellia for peace talks, but something about this invitation felt too perfect, too planned. Even Earth Command had warned him to be careful. Just then, the door at the far end opened with a whisper. The guard stepped aside and she walked in. Lady Varel, the Tyrellian Empire's most charming and mysterious diplomat. She wore a shimmering silver dress that moved like liquid. Her deep violet eyes locked onto Jake's as she walked. Every step she took was practiced, powerful, dangerous. Most humans would be breathless in her presence, but Jake simply gave a polite nod. Lady Varel, a pleasure to meet you. Her voice was soft, sweet like honey. The pleasure is all mine. Ambassador Holloway. She sat across from him, her eyes never leaving his. The air between them felt heavy with something unspoken. Her mission was clear: seduce the human, gain his trust, and extract vital secrets from him. But Jake wasn't just another human. He had read the Tyrellian files. He knew how they used beauty, scent, and sound to control others. He also knew this woman was not just a diplomat. She was a weapon. As the servants brought in glowing fruits and misty drinks, Varel began to talk, small talk, laughter, compliments. She praised Earth's progress, flattered Jake's courage. Her perfume slowly filled the air, a soft golden mist almost impossible to notice. It was designed to lower resistance, to make the mind foggy. Jake leaned back, smiling calmly. You're very kind, Lady Varel, but next time, tell your people not to mix scent-based pheromones with human drinks. It spoils the flavor. Her smile froze just for a second, then returned. You're more prepared than I thought, she said quietly. Jake looked her in the eyes. I'm not here for games, but the truth was, he was playing one. His own game, and he was already winning round one. Far above the room, behind a dark glass wall, a group of Tyrellian high officials watched the meeting through a live feed. Their faces were calm, but their voices sharp. He's resisting the pheromones, said one. She must switch tactics, said another. The mission must not fail. That human is dangerous. His influence on Earth's council is too strong. Back in the chamber, Varel stood up and walked slowly around Jake. Her heels made no sound on the crystal floor. She reached out and gently touched his shoulder. Jake, may I call you that? She whispered. You seem lonely in this cold hall. Jake didn't move. I prefer ambassador, he said softly. For now. She leaned closer, her lips near his ear. It doesn't have to be cold. He turned his head slightly and said in a calm voice, and it doesn't have to be fake either. For the first time, Varel was the one caught off guard. She stepped back, blinking slowly. Jake placed a small device under the table, unseen. A tiny vibration buzzed against his wrist. A secret message had arrived. He glanced at the screen hidden in his palm. Warning, mission compromised. Varel is not here for diplomacy. Do not trust her. Jake closed the message and looked at her again. So, he said with a small smile, how long have you been studying Earth culture? Long enough to know your people crave affection, she said, tilting her head. Even from those they don't understand. But do you understand us? Jake asked, his tone shifting. Or are you just pretending until you get what you came for? Varel paused. She had used these tricks on many species, flirting, teasing, promises. But none of them ever questioned her like this. None of them ever looked past the beauty, past the lies. I'm here for peace, she said finally. But even she didn't sound convinced anymore. Jake stood slowly. Then let's start with honesty. Because if you're not honest with me now, I won't be staying for the next meeting. He began to walk toward the exit, leaving her standing in the middle of the chamber, her fingers curled into her palm, face unreadable, but as he reached the door, she called out, Wait, he turned halfway. There's something you don't know, she said. He raised an eyebrow. Try me. Varel looked down. Hesitating for the first time in years, her mission had just started, but something was already breaking inside her plan. Jake stepped closer again. You were sent to charm me, he said. But tell me something, Lady Varel. What happens when you're the one being affected? And just for a brief moment she looked shaken. Her eyes flashed with something that wasn't part of the mission. Real emotion. The seduction mission had begun, but it was already going off script. The night air on Terrelia was thick with glowing pollen, drifting like golden snow through the open windows of Varel's private chamber. But inside she sat still, facing her reflection in the mirror, staring into her own eyes as if searching for something lost. Her perfect posture wavered slightly. Her fingers trembled near her necklace, a sign of stress her training had warned her to hide. Varel had never failed a mission, not once. But Jake Holloway wasn't reacting like any other target. And worse, her heart was doing something strange. Something dangerous. It was beating faster when she thought of him. Behind her, a soft chime rang. A message lit up on the wall screen. Status report required, mission delay not acceptable. Human must be compromised within 48 hours. She closed the screen with a flick. Her eyes narrowed. She stood and left the room. Her heels sharp now, not silent like before. Meanwhile, Jake stood on the outer balcony of his guest chamber, looking over the alien gardens, tall plants with glowing orbs, and pools that shimmered like mirrors. He wasn't admiring the view. His hand tapped his hidden communicator. Linking with Earth Command's AI update, he whispered. The AI responded in a voice only he could hear. Surveillance confirms high-level interest in your responses. Terrellian Council grows anxious. The diplomat's pulse has spiked abnormally after contact. Jake smiled slightly. Then it's working. Clarify, the AI asked. She was sent to manipulate me, Jake said. But I'm going to make her question why she ever accepted the mission. Back in the embassy's central chamber, a dinner was arranged, long table, golden plates, and more alien food than Jake could name. Varel entered in a new dress, deep green with silver patterns across her arms. A change in color, a shift in tactics. This time, she didn't try to touch him or charm him. She played innocent curiosity instead. Tell me about Earth, she said, her voice soft. What do humans dream of at night? Jake looked at her with calm eyes. Some dream of peace, he said. Others dream of power, but the ones you should fear are the ones who dream of freedom. Her eyes studied him. Are you one of them? He smiled. What do you think? She laughed gently. You answer every question with another question. That's very human of you. He leaned forward slightly. And you answer every truth with a lie. That's very Terrellian of you. She blinked slowly, but didn't deny it. She picked up a soft blue fruit and offered it to him. Try this, it calms the heart. Jake looked at it. Then at her. No thank you, he said. I like my heart just the way it is. Loud and suspicious. Varel felt something stir inside her again. She hated how his words disarmed her, how he seemed to see right through her training, her mask, her mission. I studied humans for 10 years, she said suddenly. We thought you were simple, full of instincts and emotion. But you're not like the records say. Jake tilted his head. Maybe your records are out of date. Varel looked down at her hand, where a faint tremble returned. Or maybe, you're different, she said quietly. Jake said nothing, just studied her face. She looked up and saw that he wasn't smiling anymore. His eyes were sharp, serious. You said you studied us, Jake said. Did you also study Earth's wars? The times we were underestimated? She nodded slowly. Yes. That's why you scare them. You adapt too fast. You fight too hard, Jake leaned back. And yet here I am, unarmed in your palace, having dinner with the one sent to seduce me. Was that a mistake? She asked. That depends, he said. Are you here for diplomacy or for breeding control? Varel froze, her fork dropped onto the plate with a soft clink. She looked up sharply. How do you know that term? I read more than the welcome brochure, Jake replied coldly. And I've seen your gene alteration reports. You think we wouldn't notice what you're doing? Preparing diplomats whose DNA can bond with humans. Varel stood, her chair sliding back. You were never supposed to see those files. Jake stood too, calm as ever. I was never supposed to survive long enough to read them, was I? Silence fell between them, heavy, tense. But then something strange happened. Varel sat down again. Not as a weapon, not as a spy, but as someone tired, confused, and scared. I didn't choose this mission, she said in a low voice. I was born for it. They created me to be perfect for someone like you. Jake looked at her, really looked. And now? She met his eyes. Now I don't know what I want. Jake's communicator buzzed again. A silent message flashing. Abort mission. Council suspect's emotional compromise, evac plan recommended. He ignored it. Instead, he sat down again across from her. Then let's find out together, he said. What you really want. And in that moment, the game had truly begun. But it wasn't the game either side expected. The next morning, the sons of Terrelia rose slowly, casting golden rays through the crystal windows of the embassy. Jake Holloway stood in the training courtyard, practicing with an old Terran blade, a simple gift from his father. Its edge wasn't sharp, but the motion kept his mind clear. Sweat glistened on his brow as he moved with focus, each slash measured and calm. Nearby, Varel watched him from the shadows, something flickering in her gaze. She had never seen a human look so peaceful while holding something designed for war. Is that for me? She asked, stepping into the light. Jake didn't stop. Depends, he said, spinning the blade and catching it. Do you plan to stab me first? She smiled, though her voice was quieter today. I'm starting to think you're not so easy to stab. Jake lowered the blade, finally turning to face her. No, he said. But you've already tried with charm, words, and perfume. She looked away, her voice soft. That wasn't me, that was what I was told to be. Jake nodded, wiping his forehead. Then maybe it's time you stop being what they made and start being something real, Varel hesitated, then said, Come with me. She led him through hidden halls deep inside the embassy, doors that shimmered and dissolved when she touched them. The final chamber was small, dimly lit, and filled with floating screens. Her personal chamber locked away from all. Everything I know about Earth is in here, she said. Waving her hand, the screens flickered, videos. Notes, images of Earth cities, forests, children, and war zones. Jake stared at it all, then looked at her. You studied us like an animal in a lab. No, she said. I studied you like a mystery I couldn't solve. Your people laugh in pain, hope in darkness, and fight when they should run. Jake stepped closer to one screen. A video showing Earth soldiers fighting during the siege of Europa. A young medic dragged 3 wounded men across a battlefield while alien fire rained around him. This one, Varel said quietly. He was 19, no weapons, only courage. Why did he go back for them? Jake looked at her. Because they were his brothers, not by blood, but by choice. She stepped even closer to him. Would you do the same? Jake didn't hesitate. Yes, there was silence for a moment, then Varel asked, Even for someone who was sent to betray you? Jake finally turned to her. You're asking the wrong question, he said. Ask me what I'd do if that person changed. Her breath caught, but before she could speak, a hidden panel behind them clicked open. They turned fast, a tall, silent alien figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Karnath, one of the Emperor's personal guards. His skin shimmered like black glass and his eyes were cold as space. You are compromised, Lady Varel, he said. Return now or be marked disloyal. Jake stepped in front of her without thinking. She's not going anywhere. Karnath's voice was ice. You overestimate your value, human. Jake's smile was sharp. And you underestimate mine. Before Karnath could reach for his blade, Jake tapped his wrist twice. A bright flash burst from his collar, a signal jammer, followed by a faint beep. Varel gasped. You planned this? Jake kept his eyes on Karnath. I had to see how far they'd go to control you. Looks like I have my answer. In seconds, embassy guards rushed in, both Terrellian and human. Drawn by the emergency pulse Jake had secretly planted days ago, Karnath backed away, surrounded but not defeated. He pointed at Varel. You will answer for this, he growled, then vanished into the shadows, teleporting out after the room cleared. Jake turned to her again. Now you know they'll never let you walk away free. Not while they think you're theirs. Varel stood frozen, hands shaking slightly. I didn't know they would send him. I thought I had more time. Jake placed a gentle hand on her arm. You don't, he said. But you still have a choice. She looked up at him, tears threatening to rise in her eyes. Then help me choose. Jake nodded. We fake a new mission report. Tell them I'm under your spell, you're still in control. You buy time. Varel blinked. And while they think I'm winning, Jake finished for her. We find the truth behind your creation, and we burn their plan to the ground. For the first time since they met, they weren't opponents or players in a game. They were allies, bound by risk, by fire, and by something else, a growing trust but deep within the palace walls. The council had already begun rewriting her orders, and they weren't going to wait long, because the human was tricking them all, and they didn't like being fooled. The stars above Terrelia blinked gently, unaware of the secrets being hidden beneath their light. Inside a quiet corridor of the royal palace, Jake walked beside Varel, both of them moving like shadows, silent and focused. They were no longer ambassador and diplomat. They were something else now, partners running out of time. They reached a sealed door deep below the embassy, a forgotten chamber marked with alien symbols and warnings. Varel placed her hand against the scanner. It hissed open with a low sigh, revealing a cold, dark room filled with glowing tablets, old data crystals, and one tall, locked vault. "This is where they keep the classified genetic archives," she whispered. "If the truth about me exists anywhere, it's inside that vault." Jake stepped forward, his hand tracing the lock's alien symbols. "What are the chances it's not trapped?" She gave a faint smile. "About the same as you escaping a war zone without scars." Jake nodded. "So not good." He reached into his coat, pulling out a small human device and sleek, black and humming with quiet energy. A gift from Earth's intelligence division. It began decoding the alien lock, blinking faster with each second as they waited. Varel looked at him, really looked. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. "You could walk away, report me, even trade me for Earth's safety." Jake kept his eyes on the device. "Because I see you fighting not just your mission, but yourself. And because I know what it feels like to be used." The vault clicked. The door slid open slowly, revealing rows of silver discs floating in magnetic fields, each one labeled with glowing alien symbols. Varel walked in first, her fingers scanning the text until she stopped at one marked in red. "This one," she said, voice tight. "My codename, VX9-Wait. I thought it was just a file number." She touched the disc and it played a hologram, an old video of alien scientists. A younger Varel floated in a stasis pod, her eyes closed, wires in her spine. A voice echoed through the room. "Subject VX9-Wait, engineered for emotional adaptability, optimized for cross-species genetic compatibility. Mission, seduce, bond, breed, extract intelligence from Terran targets." Jake clenched his jaw. So it was always about control. Varel stepped back, her breath shaky. "They created me for this. Not diplomacy, not peace, just manipulation, breeding, and lies." Jake looked at her. "And yet here you are, questioning it all." Before she could speak, the room's lights blinked red. An alarm began to hum softly. Then a voice came through the chamber's speaker. "Security breach detected. Subject VX908. Step away from the Terran agent." They both froze. Jake grabbed the disc and pulled Varel's hand. "Time to leave." They ran through the back corridor, footsteps echoing as the alarm grew louder. Guards were coming, but Jake knew these halls better than he should. He had mapped them in his mind from the first day. They reached a hidden service lift. Varel activated it with a code only high-ranking diplomats knew. The lift shot upward, silent and fast. They burst into a garden, high above the palace, no guards, only wind and starlight. "We can't go back," Jake said, breath heavy. "They know we're working together now." Varel nodded, still holding the disc like a lifeline. "They'll mark me a traitor." Jake looked around. "We need a ship, a secure one." "I know a place," she said. "But we'll have to move fast, unknown to them." High above in a council chamber, Tyrellian eyes watched every move. They had been tracking Varel secretly, doubting her loyalty ever since her first hesitation. Now the truth was confirmed. "Activate the purge order," one counselor said coldly. "Eliminate the asset," but another spoke. Older, wiser. "No," he said, "let her run. Let's see where she leads the human." Back in the garden, Jake and Varel made their way down a hidden stairwell. Below the palace were the old tunnels, forgotten paths that led to the outer districts, places the royal guards didn't patrol. As they entered the tunnels, the walls changed, rough stone, old roots, markings from an ancient time before even the Tyrellian Empire rose. Varel looked at the drawings, pausing at one symbol, a woman with 2 children, one with alien features, the other strangely human. Jake noticed her stare. "What is it?" She touched the symbol gently. "A myth," she said. The old one spoke of a child born from 2 worlds, one that could unite empires or destroy them. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Sounds familiar." They kept moving, and deep inside the tunnel, they reached a steel door. Varel punched in a code. The door opened to reveal a small hidden hangar with a single ship, sleek, black fast. Jake nodded in approval. "Tell me you know how to fly it," she smiled faintly. "I was trained to escape more than just hearts." They boarded the ship, powered it on and blasted into the stars. But as they left the planet's orbit, the disk Varel had stolen blinked once. transmitting a secret pulse into space far away. Something ancient stirred in response. The council thought they were watching everything, but they didn't know the real secret Varel carried. Not just files, not just betrayal, but life itself. The stolen ship moved fast through deep space, stars streaking past the windows like silver rain. Inside the cockpit, Jake sat in the pilot's chair, hands steady on the controls beside him. Varel leaned over the scanner, her fingers tapping buttons in patterns only she knew. They had left Terelia behind, but not the danger. "We've got one chance to disappear," Jake said. "If they find us now, we're finished." Varel nodded, her eyes focused. "I'm masking our trail, jamming the transponder, rerouting all signals." Jake glanced at her. "You're good at this," she didn't smile. "They trained me to disappear after missions. Seduce, succeed, vanish." He looked away. "And now?" She sighed. "Now I'm running not from failure, but from success I never wanted." Silence filled the cockpit for a moment. Then Jake asked, "Where are we heading?" "There's a hidden moon near the edge of the black stretch," she said. "It's abandoned, no surveillance, no patrols. Only ruins." Jake nodded. "Perfect. Ruins sound safe." An hour later, the ship slowed as they reached a dark system. A small gray moon appeared on the screen. Lifeless, cracked, forgotten. They landed the ship inside a giant crater. Shielded from orbital scans, the engines powered down, and the silence of space returned inside the ship. Jake set up a basic perimeter scan while Varel opened the stolen disk again. The files inside were more than they expected. Maps, breeding logs, candidate matches, hidden DNA records of human subjects across the galaxy. "They've been testing this for years," she whispered. "Even before I was created," Jake leaned in. "How many like you?" "None exactly like me," she said, "but dozens created to mimic emotions. Beauty, desire," he stared at the screen. "Weapons with feelings," she nodded. "And now I think I've become a weapon that feels too much." Jake didn't reply. Instead, he handed her a protein bar and said, "Eat. You'll need strength." She took it with quiet gratitude, but when she bit into it, she winced slightly, then paused. Jake noticed something wrong. "I've been feeling odd," she said, touching her stomach. "Like my body's reacting strangely." Jake scanned her with a handheld device. The screen flickered, then flashed a warning in bright red. "Genetic fusion detected. Reproductive compatibility achieved. Status pregnant." Jake blinked slowly, staring at the screen. "Varel," he said quietly. "You're pregnant." She froze, her lips parted. "That's impossible." "No," he said, turning the screen to her. "It's not. Not with how they designed you." She stood up, backing away, her hands shaking. "This wasn't supposed to happen. It was a mission, not..." This Jake stood too, gently approaching her. "Listen to me. This wasn't your fault. They made you for this. But now it's your choice what to do next." Tears welled up in her eyes. "They'll hunt me. They'll want the child. Not because it's mine, but because it's a success." Jake clenched his fists. "Then we don't let them take anything." He activated a hidden panel on the ship's dashboard. A secret comm line connected to Earth's underground rebel group, the Outbound Guard. Warriors who didn't follow orders, only honor. "This is Holloway. I'm off-grid. Need extraction?" A voice replied, rough and familiar. "Jake, you've got some nerve showing up after vanishing." "I've got something the Terrellian Empire will kill for," Jake said. "I need a safe house and medcare for someone." The voice paused. "Send coordinates." "We'll come." Varel sat down slowly, still in shock. "I don't know how to be a mother," she whispered. Jake knelt beside her. "Neither do I know how to be a father. But we're going to figure it out together." The ship shook slightly, an alert flashed. "Incoming vessel detected." Jake ran to the scanner. His face hardened. Terrellian hunter drone. Varel stood, anger flashing in her eyes now. "They tracked the disk. I should have destroyed it." "No," Jake said. "Already activating the ship's weapons. That disk exposed their crimes. We'll use it to burn them." Varel took the co-pilot seat. "I'll fly. You shoot." The drone came into view, a sleek black triangle with red lights glowing. It fired first, but missed by inches. Jake responded with 2 plasma bursts, hitting the drone's left wing. The drone spun out but recovered, circling back with vengeance. "Shield at 40%, Varel warned. "We can't survive another hit," Jake growled. "Then we don't get hit." As the drone closed in, Varel flipped the ship upside down and dove into a narrow canyon. The drone followed but clipped a sharp rock wall. Shattering one of its engines, Jake took the shot, direct hit. The drone exploded in a silent burst of fire and metal. Breathing heavy, they watched as the last sparks faded into the sky. Varel looked at Jake. Nice shot. He looked at her belly. Then her eyes, nice flying, they landed again. Hidden once more, Jake activated the emergency beacon for pickup. Varel sat quietly, her hand now resting over her stomach. This child, she said, will be hunted, hated, feared. Jake sat beside her. Or, they'll be the first to change everything. Above them, the stars waited. So did the future. The sky above the abandoned moon stayed dark and silent. But Jake knew better than to trust the quiet. Every second bought them time, but every heartbeat drew the net closer. The Tyrellians would not give up, not now. Not after learning their most valuable weapon had gone rogue. Inside the ship, Varel sat in silence, her hand resting protectively over her belly. Her breathing was slow, measured, but her mind raced with fear. The truth of her condition still felt unreal. She had been created to carry this possibility, but no one expected it to actually happen, not even her. Jake worked quietly at the console, patching damage from the drone attack, encrypting their comms, wiping any trace of their presence. His mind was calm on the outside, but deep down he felt the pressure building. He paused and looked back at her. How are you holding up? Varel forced a smile. Still here. He walked over, knelt beside her, and handed her a warm cloth for her forehead. We'll get through this. She looked into his eyes. You say that like you've done it before? Jake nodded slowly. I've never done this before, he admitted. But I've faced impossible odds, and this time, I have something to fight for. A soft beep interrupted them. Jake moved to the console. The screen flashed with an incoming signal. Not Earth. Not friendly. He narrowed his eyes. It's a Tyrellian tracking pulse, he said. It's not close, but it's looking for something. Varel stood, wobbling slightly. They're scanning for my DNA signature. It's encoded into every Tyrellian fleet AI. They'll find us eventually. Jake clenched his jaw. Then we have to move again, but where? She asked. We can't run forever. Jake pointed to a blinking light on the navigation map. We're heading to the fringe belt. There's an old smuggler port hidden in the asteroid field. My old friend runs it. He doesn't ask questions, and he has medical tech we'll need. Varel nodded. And after that? Jake looked serious. Then we disappear, completely new identities, new lives. They powered up the ship again, the engines humming low as they lifted from the moon's surface. The stars stretched across the window as they jumped into hyperspace. But across the galaxy, the Tyrellian Council had declared open pursuit. A priority code had been issued, capture or kill. They had lost control of their creation. And worse, they feared what she was carrying. Inside a vast warship, High General Kralik stood before a holomap, pointing at the ship's trajectory. The human has corrupted her, he growled. They must be separated before bonding strengthens. A cold voice beside him replied, And the child? Retrieve the body if alive, Kralik said without blinking. Extract what we need, erase the rest. Meanwhile, Jake's ship shook as it exited hyperspace near the asteroid field. Giant rocks drifted in the darkness, hiding countless secrets among them. A small hidden station flickered with dim lights. Port Kessery. They landed quietly, dust and metal groaning under the ship's weight. Jake helped Varel down the ramp, keeping a close hand near his concealed weapon. They were met by a short, rough-looking man with a wide grin and a mechanical eye. Jake Holloway, he said. I thought you were dead or married. Jake smiled. Still alive, and very much in trouble. The man looked at Varel, raised an eyebrow, then said nothing. Come in, he said. I've got a room and a medic. You'll need both. Hours passed, and Varel lay inside a warm chamber. Hooked to non-invasive monitors, a gentle hum filled the room. The medic scanned her belly slowly, eyes widening slightly. Well? Jake asked from the doorway. The medic turned. She's stable, he said. The pregnancy is real. Hybrid DNA, completely new. Jake stepped in. Is she in danger? Not yet, the medic replied. But this child is growing fast, much faster than normal, like it's adapting. Varel looked at Jake. Her eyes wide. It's evolving. Suddenly, a blast shook the station. Lights flickered. Alarms rang out. Jake grabbed his blaster. They found us. Port Kasari had no defense fleet, only hidden walls and dark tunnels. Jake guided Varel through them, blaster ready. The guards tried to hold the line, but Tyrellian shadow units poured in, silent, precise, lethal. They won't stop, Varel whispered, clutching her side. They want what's inside me. Then we give them nothing, Jake growled. In a final hallway, a metal door slammed shut behind them, sealing them off temporarily. Jake handed Varel a small data chip. What's this? She asked. The files, he said. Everything we found. If I don't make it, you upload this. Show the galaxy what they did to you. She grabbed his hand. Don't say that. You promised we'd do this together. Jake looked into her eyes, saw the fear, the strength, the spark that was never meant to exist. I'm not leaving you, he said. But if I fall, you run. Save yourself and our child. They looked back as the door behind them began to glow. Slowly being cut open, Jake raised his weapon. Standing between her and the enemy, the hunted were ready to fight back. The metal door glowed hotter with each second. Red light outlining the shape of a plasma blade slicing through from the other side. The hum of Tyrellian tech echoed through the corridor, slow and steady like a heart ready to burst. Jake stood with his blaster raised, his body between Varel and the enemy. His eyes were sharp, focused, but his jaw clenched tight. He knew what was coming, and he knew he couldn't let them pass behind him. Varel gripped the wall to stay upright, sweat beading on her forehead. The child inside her was reacting, shifting, awakening as if sensing the danger. Her breathing grew heavier, her skin glowing faintly. Something in her DNA had been triggered. I can't keep running, she whispered. Jake, if they break through. You're not giving up, he said, still facing the door. Not now, not ever. She stepped closer, placing her hand gently on his back. You've given me more than freedom, she said softly. You gave me something real, something I was never supposed to have. Jake turned slightly, their eyes locking. And I'll protect it to my last breath. The door sparked one final time, and then it burst open. Tyrellian shadow units flooded in, armed with stun spears and genetic suppressors. They moved without sound like ghosts in armor. Jake fired first, hitting the lead soldier in the chest. The body dropped, but more came. They moved fast. But Jake was faster, dodging between blasts. Returning fire with deadly precision, his training kicked in. But he was just one man against many. A soldier got too close. Jake spun, slammed his elbow into its helmet, and shot at point blank, but they kept coming. Overwhelming behind him, Varel dropped to her knees, her hands gripping her stomach. A strange light pulsed from her skin, blue and gold, her body reacting to the hybrid life growing inside her. One of the soldiers turned toward her, its suppressor charging. Jake saw it, and in one breath he ran, shielding her just in time. The suppressor hit him square in the back. He fell hard, body twitching, gun clattering to the floor. Jake! Varel screamed, crawling to him, her fingers shaking as she touched his face. He opened one eye, pain flooding his features. Don't let them take it. The soldiers moved in to grab her. But something strange happened. Her eyes flared gold, and a shockwave exploded from her body. The walls shook, lights flickered, and the Tyrellian soldiers froze, literally, held in place by an invisible force. Varel stood slowly, her hands raised, her entire body glowing now. Not with fire or power, but with something ancient. Something born of both human and alien blood. You will not touch him, she said, her voice echoing like thunder. One by one, the soldiers collapsed. Unconscious, their systems fried, the energy faded, and she dropped to her knees again. Gasping, Jake groaned, pushing himself upright. That was new. I didn't do it, she whispered. The baby did. Jake blinked, then laughed weakly. Remind me never to argue with our kid. Alarms rang again, reinforcements incoming. But before they could reach them, the ceiling burst open. A transport vessel hovered above. Ropes dropping through the smoke. Jake Holloway, a voice shouted from above. Outbound guard, your ride's here. Jake wrapped his arm around Varel. Hang on, he said, lifting her with all the strength he had left. Together they rose into the light, leaving the collapsing station behind. Once aboard the vessel, medical teams rushed them, scanning Varel, checking Jake's vitals. But Jake waved them off. Broadcast the files, he ordered, handing the data chip to the commander. Let the galaxy see what the Tyrellians have done. Hours later, across 100 systems, the truth spread like wildfire. Screens lit up in markets, temples, and warships, showing the footage, the experiments, the lies, the weaponization of life. The council tried to deny it, but it was too late. Civil unrest broke out on several Tyrellian worlds. Protests rose even from their own people. The empire cracked and began to fall. Pharrell rested in a quiet medical bay. Jake sat beside her, bandaged but smiling. He held her hand, watching her sleep peacefully for the first time in days. "She saved us," the medic whispered, "that energy." "It wasn't technology, it was life, pure and new." Jake nodded. "And they wanted to use it as a tool." The medic looked at him. "What will you do now?" Jake looked out the window into the stars. "We disappear, raise the child somewhere safe, far from war, far from politics." "But if the child is that powerful?" the medic asked. Jake smiled. "Then we raise them right. With love, not fear." Far beyond the station, the universe watched and whispered. A story had ended, but something new had begun. A diplomat created to seduce. A human sent to resist, a child born of both. Not a weapon, but a future.